kid we had here in the summertime, young kid. He's a really good player, just a little guy. Came from out of town, and like just a mature thinker. Like he hasn't seen puberty for a second yet, but like you can just see, it's like, man, you can just think the game, man. So I want to talk about a couple specifics about what can happen with puberty, just so people have a little bit of a tangible thing to grab onto when judging the situation.
Oh yeah.
So okay, first one. We'll go talk about physical things first, because these are the most obvious. First is like body proportions coordination. So you can have growth spurts that make you feel uncoordinated again. I was just talking to a dad last night. Kid was on the treadmill. I was like, yeah, he hit a growth spurt, and now it's like his stride's all weird or something like that. Which, to a degree, yes, maybe some people panic a little more than they need to, but that can happen where like all of a sudden your legs are longer, so now you don't exactly know how to move your legs the same way, or your balance is kind of off. So it can affect those things because you're not used to that frame anymore. So quick growth spurts can affect that kind of thing, right? So you shoot up 3, 4, 5, 6 inches in a short period of time. It's not as the same as adapting to like small changes, right? So that's the first thing. If you can interrupt me at any point if you have something to say. So that's the first thing. Second thing is obviously like the hormonal changes. So this is where what we talk about, where you start to get that testosterone, where the muscle mass starts to come on, the bone density goes up, and you just get stronger because of those things and you didn't really do anything to earn that. It's just, that's what happens when you get the testosterone. And this is why when people ask me about training, the age of training is normally, I say, once you hit puberty, because now you get those hormones where you can start to see the growth and you can capitalize on that period of time. It's literally like you're on steroids. That is actually what it's like for boys turning into men.
What do adults do when testosterone gets low?
Yeah, they take some
TRT.
Yeah, right.
Like, not they do.
Yeah,
but that's an option. You don't want to have low testosterone.
Right, exactly. So that's what happens when you're in the puberty years. That's why the most growth you will ever see in your whole life, if you don't take performance enhancing drugs, is going to be during puberty, right? Once that is done, you don't continue to see that growth for the rest of your life, right? So if you hit that earlier than somebody else, then obviously the strength that can come from that, the power that you can generate from that, will give you a disproportionate advantage, like relative to the other guys that are on the ice, right?
Which is the flip side to that is you got to feel for those guys that want to get in shape too, that want to work out, right? I remember my kid, and even some of the other kids that started here, the best we can do for you is to get you to move properly. You're not going to get stronger. We're very, very minimal. And you're not going to get bigger, but they want to be like their buddies. And that's a challenge, right? And that's where parenting and the surrounding village, per se, can help.
Absolutely. Well, then that's why, again, back to the training thing, that's why when people ask, it's like, I want to sign my 10-year-old up for off ice. And I'm just like, what do you want out of the off ice? Do you want them to get stronger and faster? Because that won't happen.
Well, you hear that with parents a lot. It just needs to be faster. It's like,
he can't be yet.
8, 9, 10. These aren't the years. Yeah.
And the reason is like that hormone testosterone is so responsible for your recovery, man. It's huge. It's huge for recovery. So that ability to build up, right? It's anabolic for a reason. Like that ability to build up, you don't have it yet. It's not there. So you can see some, but it's like until you have that hormone present, you're not going to see the progress that you want to see, right? So before they're at that age, it's like, yeah, you can get them comfortable moving and stuff, and that's all good, right? Get them athletic, whatever. But, like we just said, you could hit puberty, have a huge growth spurt, and it could just kibosh that anyways, right? And then you have to relearn a lot of stuff. So that's important to know. And then the last one, kind of to touch on from a physical perspective, and this is one that I actually didn't think of when I was doing a little research. I came across this one, is injury susceptibility. So when you start to hit puberty, because things are growing at different rates, it can put you at risk for different kinds of injuries, right? So if you notice, I don't have any particular like anecdotes about that happening, or kids I knew that were getting hurt more during puberty years, but it does make sense. You know what I mean? Like your femurs grow, your hamstrings are tighter, like these kinds of things can start happening. Because you're not as coordinated, you're a lot more maybe clumsy, and things can happen where you can get hurt. So that was another one I came across, which I thought was just an interesting one.
I think I have no comment on that.
No, me neither. I don't
Yeah,
because I don't
just
that
I
didn't affect me at all. I don't have any examples of
yeah.
that, but just something to be thinking about if you got a kid that isn't just being a baby. If like it seems like they're getting little things, that maybe is something to be looking at. So that's all I had on the physical stuff. Any comments on that? We'll go to
No,
the
I mean
mental.
it speaks for itself. I think.
Yeah.
Um, no, I'll deal with that after.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mental side. These are the more interesting ones now because the physical things are kind of obvious. So mental, I kind of said at the start, when you're going through puberty, the big two for me are like self-image things, which like not in the weird way, just like self-image things, and then being insecure because like maybe you have acne, maybe you are way bigger than everyone, maybe you stink because now you have body odor and like somebody, you know what I mean? There's all these things that start to come up in those years when you start to change that mentally can be like a stressor,
Or you
right?
look like Baloney Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
Remember Baloney
Baloney Joe,
Joe?
I do.
He
Yeah.
just
Baloney Joe,
he didn't
tough.
grow anymore, but like he grew, he turned out to be about he wasn't tall when he hit puberty,
Mhm.
and he didn't get any taller, but he had a head like a dump truck and hair
Yeah,
and voice, and it was very awkward.
yeah, right. So that's mentally, that's something that your kid has to deal with, right? And maybe if you have never paid attention to this as parents before, like you weren't in tune with how the puberty thing could affect you or whatever. It's like that is actually a factor that you need to consider now when your kids are interacting, when they're in social situations. It's a weird time when things are changing and you don't know how to deal with that, right? So mentally, that's a big one. Um, with that can come like the emotions, the anger, the moodiness. Maybe you can speak on dealing with a teenager in your house going through this stuff, like some of the changes from younger to that puberty time where things are just like weird now. Like, what is your problem, kid? I can't really speak to
It
that because I'm
happens
not.
all the time.
Yeah,
We got a daughter and two boys, and they were all a little bit different, but they all had their things, and it's like it's unreasonable.
but was it like a black and white change where it was like, okay, this is not how you used to be, and now you're angry and emotional and
No, they were
moody?
all different. They're all
Yeah,
different. I mean, like one was like, "Geez,
yeah,
what a pain in the ass you are!"
yeah,
Like that's all you are is a pain in the ass. Um, and then the other two were like not bad, not bad. But you see differences, and you'll see someone get moody over no reason.
yeah,
They need more sleep, all that kind of stuff.
yeah. And
Yeah.
understanding that just from the side of they're going through puberty is useful to know because then it's like, yeah, okay, you're a pain in my ass, but maybe it'll help you to understand a little bit and try to kind of help them through like shit's weird right now, right? It's hard to know like how to behave. I see it now with a lot of the classes I teach because I have like the grade 9, 10 time. That's like prime time where everything's weird. Just everything's awkward. The kids are awkward. The boys and girls interacting is awkward. It's just weird. Um, and then the last one, this is probably the most important one that I could think of mentally, was differences in maturity because you can handle things a lot better with a little bit more maturity than less, right? So whether it's a loss, whether it's criticism, feedback, coaching, parenting instruction, these kinds of things. If you have a little bit more maturity, you might have a little bit of a leg up in terms of handling certain situations. You might be able to think the game a little bit better because you have maturity. You can just see things a little bit more clearly. You start to have a little bit of longer term thinking because you're mature. Maybe not as impulsive on the positive end. Obviously, talking about this. So that's the other one that I would say plays a lot is that maturity thing mentally, where you just start to grow up a little bit and you start to be able to process information a little bit better. So that can give you a leg up mentally. That I think applies more directly to the performance side of things when we're talking about hockey,
Yeah,
right?
but I think I would say yeah and no. This is from my experience, anyways, and also dealing with a lot of kids. I think it's one of the big factors when it comes down to the maturity is because they just especially for the guys, the brain's just not. They're dumb. They're dumb guys, right? I'm still dumb, but they just if you can because they can't reason totally. So the maturity, like I find some kids, I think it's again comes down to the village. It comes down to who they're surrounded with. That
Oh,
the
100%.
message is coming across the
100%.
right way, so that you can have the patience to sit down and talk to them and give them a little bit of space to you know. But if you can present cases and present options and present things in a good light, like where you let them think a little bit and try to help them reason, I think it goes a long way. Because you know the things that my parents or my uncles or whatever people would say when I was 16, 17, I was so much smarter than them, right? There's no reasoning. It's like, nah, nah, I'll figure it out. So it's like being able to like just have them process it, ask questions, like it's a big thing, and that's another topic,
Well,
right?
I agree
Yeah,
100%. I'm talking more like, so if you take the kid he's a mature young kid before puberty, he hits puberty, he'll just be a little more mature, even though he was already mature. Where the fact that he was already mature, I think, comes to from the environment thing a little bit more. Whereas you have the dumb kid here, where he's not mature at all. He hits puberty, he's still gonna start getting a little more mature. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Just
yeah. It's a process. Yeah,
from the puberty, right? That was more pointing kind
yeah.
of
Okay.
that out, because if you're a kid that hasn't hit it at all, even obviously some kids are just better than other kids. Like that one kid we had here in the summertime, young kid, he's a really good player, just a little guy.
Yeah.
Came from out of
Oh yeah.
town,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like just a mature thinker. Like he hasn't seen puberty for a second yet, but like you can just see it's like, man, you can just think the game, man, right? So obviously it's not so much
You
that
could
part.
talk to them. You
Yeah,
took things very
exactly, right?
serious.
So I don't mean more like the huge environmental changes, but just on an individual level. It's like when you hit puberty, you will be a little bit more able to do those things to whatever level your baseline was at before. It'll just go up slightly from the puberty thing. So that's what I got from the physical mental thing. You got anything else to wrap before we go to like some questions, kind of start wrapping up?
I was going to talk about like a mental
Yeah, go.
thing, but do we have a question on that?
No, this it'll be
Okay.
like different questions.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Like you, kids, like I think parents can get this for the most part. Like not because, I mean, most people get it, but maybe some people don't, or maybe I take it for granted. But um, there's a lot of things, and I'm probably leaning more towards the kid that hasn't hit it yet. Like that's his peers are. There's a lot of things that um, I think parents need to understand is that well, even for I guess a kid that has hit puberty, but the psychological side, like the confidence, is a big thing. And as you said, if you hit it early, you stick out like a sore thumb. You're different, right? So it's like you could be um, self-conscious about that, but if you haven't, it's like you're the guy that wants to be bigger, stronger, and it's like I think, and I will go into this in a bit. It's the parents having conversations with them to let them know that everything's okay. Like you could be a kid that on the ass end of puberty or the beginning of puberty where you're playing hockey with guys that are maybe 2 years into it, and you're carrying a little bit of belly fat. You still got baby fat, and the boys can be chirping you, right? That's what hockey players do. You're fat. It's not really though. Not really. Hasn't got out of that phase yet. And then you see guys lean out. So it's like I think talking to kids, and then I'll tell you how I do it with after. But I think there's a big confidence thing. There's girls, right? The girls around. It's like you always want to look good for girls, and they don't want to say it. They want to look good in their. I mean, it's little things. You can walk in the dressing room. One guy could wear the tracksuit or whatever, and he looks jacked, and then you're walking and it's hanging off you.
Yeah, yeah,
All these little things,
yeah,
right?
for
So
sure. Well, we'll do a couple.